Okay, so I kind of had the same sort of setup as I did before to measure the clearances. I got my caliper here that is in my vise. I'm pushing it against this gear, this inner gear right here, and it's reading 0.06 inches. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pair of pliers and just gently grab the gear and just gently pull forward. And we got 0.05. So that amounts to 0.01, which is going to be 0.254 end play in there, and the spec is 0.25 to 0.45. So we are within spec. That means that that race that I put in the clutch hub from before is good. So now we can use that. Okay, so now that the clearance is within spec, we're going to remove this cover again, apply some liquid gasket or RTV, and then reapply it and torque it down to spec. Careful not to mess up your O-rings. Make sure these are still in the right position and are seated properly. Alright, now we have the underdrive clutch hub. The parking paw was pretty tricky to get in. It comes with this part, which is the actual paw, where the little notch goes into this gear tooth over here, these gear teeth. And it has this spring. One side of the spring connects to this part right here, and the other side connects on the other side of this paw right here, so when it pushes in, it pushes back when it's released. And then you have this part over here that's just like a brace, and this is held in by two little shafts here that we took out before, and then the actual paw itself is held in by this thicker shaft, and over this thicker shaft, inside the spring, is a little sleeve that goes around this. Alright, now we're going to install this thrust bearing with the wider side facing down. I put some automatic transmission fluid in there to lube it up. It goes in like that. Now we're going to install the underdrive clutch hub. It goes right in the middle. Push it until it gets seated. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to take some 3mm solder, some pretty thick solder, and we're going to sort of bend it like this and place it in this groove. This groove is where this washer goes, and we're going to measure this clearance here by using this solder. It's kind of use it as a plasti gauge. We're going to crush it and measure how much it crushes. So we're going to put one bead right here, and then the other bead over here, just sort of in the middle of this circle. So now we're going to install the oil pump without the gasket, and then we're going to torque these bolts down to spec to crush the solder. So let's just get it on there, so wiggle it. There we go. We install the bolts. Okay, now we're going to torque these to 17 foot-pounds. Notice how I did not put any gaskets on, because we're going to take this right off again. Okay, so it's all torqued down. Now we're gonna remove it. Alright, so I realized that the manual says to use 3.5 millimeter diameter solder. Now I can't find that anywhere, not even online, so I don't know how I'm supposed to get that. So what I did instead to measure this crush spec was to use one of these crimp connectors. So I just took a caliper, this guy right here, and measured the diameter, the inner diameter, and to see how much, how thick it was. I did that to this guy too, so I can have two readings. So I measured it beforehand and after. Did the same thing as before, and I got a change in thickness of about 0.5 millimeter. So that means our measurement that we did is equivalent to measuring 3, which would fall in this range, at the end of this range, which would mean we need a spacer thickness of 24, and each spacer has its own ID symbol. The one in there now is, the one in there now is a 22, you can see that, but we need a 24, so I gotta order a 24 to put in there. Okay, now we're gonna hammer this cap back in. We're gonna use a 39 millimeter socket. This is a new cap, by the way. It comes in the rebuild kit. So since I can't continue with this top part anymore, I might as well start putting the valve body components together. We're going to install the parking pawl rod. It goes in with these rollers like that, and then you have this little keyway thing that will go into this hole right here from this side. So it only goes in one way. So we have this little space right here that this arm goes into. So we're going to push that forward into that little space right there, and then we're going to test to see if it can go into park. So to put it into park, just push it all the way back and then try to turn this and see that it locks, and you can't turn the output shaft. And then as soon as you let go, then it spins. So that's how you know it's working correctly. Alright, these are the accumulator pistons. They each have a seal on them. We're going to replace all these now. So when you're putting these seals on, and I've said this before, these are called scarf cut seals. So you see how they're cut like that at an angle? You put them in like this. Do not put them in like this or they will not seal. Alright, so now we're going to put these guys in. They are all the same except for the one for the overdrive clutch. Just adding a little lubricant, a little automatic transmission fluid to this. They're all the same except for the one for the overdrive clutch, which is this one. This one has one big spring, whereas all the others have one big spring and one small spring. So that goes in like this. This is for the overdrive clutch. It's in the corner here. So just make sure these go in all the way. There we go. There's kind of like a little indent where this spring sits in the back. So now we're going to install the strainer and the second brake retainer oil seal. This goes down here. Alright, next we're going to install this wiring harness. There's a new O-ring here and new O-rings on the sensor, the fluid sensor. We're going to stick it through here, put it through the case. Let me just lube this up. Put it through the case like that. There we go. And then on this side, we are going to retain it with the snap ring. I also put a new O-ring on this selector shaft right here. So this snap ring is going to go on. There we go. Alright, so always compare your new valve body gasket with your old valve body gasket. And if there's any difference, you need to figure out why. Sometimes they come up with upgrades and add a hole, remove a hole, do some research to figure out if this valve body gasket is correct. Because if it's not correct, then you will get problems, and you don't want to have any problems. So I like to lay it out like this and see if there are any holes or anything that aren't covered on each side, and it all looks pretty good. So we're good with this valve body gasket. Okay, so we want to get transmission fluid all over this. And the reason why we want to do that is so you always want to lube everything, and it will make this gasket stick to it. Just like that. And you know what? I'm actually going to make it stick to the valve body itself. That way I'm more assured that nothing is shifting around. Sticking to the valve body now on the bottom with two bolts going through, so it's holding it in place. So now I'm just going to put it on. Now just get a finger tight all the bolts. So before you put the valve body on, make sure that these two steel balls are in there. Otherwise you'll have to remove the valve body and put them in. And make sure your strainer doesn't fall out, or you'll have to remove the valve body a third time. Okay, we're going to install the detent spring. There we go. Shifts through gears nicely. Now we're going to install the fluid temperature sensor. Alright, now we're going to torque down all 28 valve body bolts, starting with the fluid temperature sensor we just put in. Each bolt is tightened down to 98 inch-pounds, and there's no specific sequence to tighten this down. Install the shift solenoids. And I'm going to put this wire in a little holder. There we go. Alright, now we're going to put the valve body cover on. We're going to torque these to the same spec as the valve body bolts, which is 98 inch-pounds. Alright, it's now much later, and that's pretty much because of this differential. It was damaged. What happened was there was a washer that got loose when the last person rebuilt this transmission, and it got jammed between the differential and the case. It caused all kinds of damage to the differential and to the case. So I tried to get, I was trying to save money, trying to get this differential repaired. Had to ask a few friends for help. Had to wait on their schedules. Anyway, I ended up just buying a new differential. So now we're ready to finish this thing up. I'm going to put the new transmission filter in. It goes right here. Okay, before we put the case on, it's super important that we put these O-rings on and not forget about them. They just go in these little grooves here. Okay, now we're going to put RTV around this whole outside and put the case back on. Now we're just going to put all the bolts in. Alright, now we're going to torque all the bolts to 425 inch-pounds. Okay, now we're going to put all the speed sensors back in. Alright, next we have this cap thing for when the speed sensor used to go in an older model. And next we have the, I guess you would call it the gear position sensor, transmission range sensor. Little selector lever on. Put the two mounting bolts in. I'm trying to look for the witness marks so I can see where this was lined up. Alright guys, and that's pretty much it. This transmission is done and it is ready to go back into the vehicle. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you liked the series. Sorry it kind of took so long to get to the last part, and if you can like my Facebook page, I'd appreciate that a lot. Again, thanks for watching. See you later.